Hi, and welcome back to the crash course in morphology. If you've reached lecture 6, you're officially a morphology pro in the making. Today we're diving into one of the most important concepts: root, base, and stem, the real building blocks behind word formation. In morphology, classifying words simply as free or bound morphemes is only one approach. In fact, there is another approach to classify words by looking at how they function in word formation. This approach focuses on the structural role of word and helps us understand the specific role each element plays. And once you look at words this way, the entire process of word formation becomes much clearer. This approach allows us to view a word from 3 different angles. A word can function as a root, base, or stem. Let's unpack each of these concepts one by one in detail. A root is basically a core part of a word. It carries the main meaning. A root can't be broken down any further. It is the basic form of word that has no affixes of any sort attached to it. Even though we often imagine roots as single, simple units, a root isn't always monomorphemic because some roots have more internal structure. A root is the most basic morpheme and a part that all other elements build on. And a root can appear as a free form or as a bound form that cannot occur independently. But in every case, the root is the essential foundation of the word. Let's take a look at some examples. The word act is a root. It has no affixes, carries the core meaning, cannot be further reduced, and it's a free morpheme. The word cupboard is a root. It is not monomorphemic as it is comprised of 2 parts, cup and board. So we call such root compound word or root, which is the mixture of 2. Word deceive is a root but a bound root. Because the part deceive cannot be used separately, so word receive is also a bound root. The key point here is the root contains the central lexical meaning of the word. Next we have base. A base is simply any root that you add derivational affixes to in order to create new words or forms. This is why we say that every root can function as a base, but not every base is necessarily a root. Once a root takes on a derivational affix, it becomes a new base for further word building. For example, the word kind is the root, and when we add ness, which is a derivational affix, we get kindness, which now functions as a base. Similarly, modern is the root, and adding eyes gives us modernize, another example of a root turning into a base. So the key take here is that a root become a base. When an affix, prefix, or suffix attaches to a root, that root functions as a base because it serves as the foundation for further morphological processes. However, the meaning may change after adding an affix, but meaning change alone does not determine whether a form is a base. What matters is that an affix attaches to it. For example, the word root happy, when added to prefix un, it became unhappy. The root happy becomes a base once the prefix un attaches. The new form unhappy can itself function as a base for additional morphology, e.g. unhappiness. In this new word unhappy, meaning changes, but this change of meaning is not the rule to make a base. It is the attachment of the prefixes and derivational affixes. And remember, a base is the starting point for any morphological addition. The third and final category is a stem. A stem is the form of a word to which inflectional morphemes attach, such as tense markers, plural endings, or agreement suffixes. Unlike bases, which are used in derivation, stems operate specifically in inflection. For example, in the word developments, we start with the root develop, add the derivational suffix, meant added to form the base development, and once we attach the plural marker s, the resulting form functions as a stem. The key idea to remember is that stems are involved in inflectional processes only, not derivational ones. Moreover, a word doesn't need to go through derivation or become a base before it can function as a stem. Even a simple root can act as a stem the moment an inflectional affix attaches to it. For example, in word cat, which is root, when an inflectional affix is added, it becomes cats, and it is a stem. The root cat immediately becomes a stem once the plural s is added. This shows that stems are defined by their role in inflection, not by whether the word has undergone any derivational changes beforehand. Now we will discuss some common misconceptions. First is this, that root and base are the same. It is wrong. A root is the most basic part of a word with no affixes. A base is any form to which an affix can be added, so root and base are not always same. In morphology, root is the irreducible core, while base is the form that accepts affixation. All roots can be bases, but not all bases are roots. Second is, all stems are roots. A stem is the form to which inflectional morphemes attach. Stems may be simple, root only, or complex, root plus derivational affixes. Therefore, many stems are not roots. This is also wrong. Third is, inflection changes word class. Inflection modifies a word's grammatical features without creating a new part of speech. Only derivation can produce a new lexical category, e.g., noun adjective. Inflection changes function, tense, number, case, but not class. So it is also wrong. Fourth is, only a base can be a stem. This is partly misunderstood. A stem is technically a type of base, but a root can also act as a stem if no derivational affixes intervene. And fifth one is this, that a base takes affixes, derivational or inflectional. Many learners assume a base freely takes both types of affixes. A base primarily takes derivational affixes, prefixes/suffixes that create new words. Inflection typically applies to stems, not bases. So this is incorrect. And last one is this, bases and stems are the same. These terms are related but not interchangeable. Every stem is a base because it can take inflection, but not every base qualifies as a stem. A base becomes a stem only when it is the form selected for inflection. So this is also false. This table gives us a quick overview of how roots, bases, and stems differ in structure and function. The root is the source of the core meaning. It's the smallest meaningful unit and can be either free or bound. A base is any form that can take a derivational affix. Because it can already contain added material, it's often larger in size and usually appears as a free form. The stem is the form that accepts inflectional affixes such as plural or tense markers, and like the base, it can also be larger and is usually free. Functionally, the root provides basic meaning. The base allows for derivation to create new words, and the stem serves as the point where inflection is added. For example, act is the root, action is the base once a derivational affix is added, and actions is the stem when the plural inflection attaches. When we raise this question, that who introduced the idea of categorization of word into root, base, and stem, the answer is these concepts do not come from one single linguist. They developed gradually through structural linguistics and later morphological theory. But we can clearly identify the main scholars who introduced and refined these terms. In morphology, the distinction among root, base, and stem was first developed in structural linguistics, especially by Leonard Bloomfield, 1933, and later refined by Charles Hockett, Robbins, Bauer, and Carstairs-McCarthy. Their works helped in clarify the concept of root, base, and stem in morphology. So to wrap up, the concepts of root, base, and stem give us a structural way of understanding how words are built. The root shows us where the core meaning begins. The base helps us see how new words are created through derivation, and the stem explains how inflectional grammar operates. Together, these three perspectives help us analyze word formation more accurately and understand the different roles each part plays in the overall structure of a word. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next lecture. Your room to learn is just a click away. Like and subscribe today.